Hi, welcome to Rock Arena. Tonight a special program called Rock Around the Kremlin. It looks at the current status of contemporary music in the Soviet Union. Russian youth has historically been deprived of Western rock and roll up until recently, when more has been filtering through. For instance, Beatles records only went on sale there recently, and it's only been over the last decade that selected Western rock artists have been able to tour. In the Eastern Bloc, generally punk and new wave music is frowned on by the state but manages to survive, particularly in Poland. There's a strong political motivation behind rock and roll in Czechoslovakia, and East Berlin, where bands are plentiful, they're subject to restriction. Similarly, in the USSR, there are known to be over 1,000 rock bands. As a result of the spontaneous emergence of these groups, the authorities saw fit to legalise some of them in order to control the movement. However, amateur groups are still popular, especially in Leningrad. Over the next hour, you'll probably get a clearer picture of rock in the USSR.
The Soviet Union at the end of the 80s. The Voice of America and the BBC have made the superstars of the international rock scene as famous here as anywhere else in the world. Records and cassettes feed a rapidly expanding black market. Soviet rock was officially born at a concert in Tbilisi in June 1980. A sign of the times, Marxism, like capitalism, will within a few years of each other have experienced the same tidal wave emanating from a youth which needs to find its way and which creates its own history and culture, owing little to the ideologies of the two superpowers.
Так смеется папа и мама.
In Moscow, as in Leningrad, in Kiev or Sverdlovsk, thousands of groups are born. This one calls itself Traffic Jam. Coming from Estonia, where nearly 1,300 rock groups are listed, Vitamins is always a hit when it plays in Moscow. Like other groups, it appeals to a public that's both very young and well-behaved. Even better behaved, since its concerts are always performed in the presence of militia. There are no encores. Throughout the Soviet Union, public performances have to end by 11 o'clock at night. At the end of the 1970s, rock music meant decadence. It was a period of incendiary official declarations, like those of the late Marshal Ustinov, who saw rock as the ideal cultural ground for the virus of bourgeois ideology. The excommunication was meaningless. For the first time, a spontaneous social movement proved itself to be more powerful than the traditions of Soviet society. The party apparatchiks had to surrender to the fact that despite a strict education, a part of their wonderful youth had grown addicted to the new beat. Boris Grebenshchikov has been living, composing, and playing in Leningrad for the last 10 years. His group is not well enough behaved to be allowed to record records, so Boris and his friends officially remain amateurs. To those who have baptized him, the Tsar of Rock, he replies that he's only the leader of Aquarium.
For me, rock and roll always was the substitute of religion. And right now, when I became religious myself, I found out there's no difference between rock and roll and religion. It is the same thing. And it explains everything, and that's the thing that I am in. So for me, it's a spiritual quest.
And what's your religion?
The same as everybody's, I think. I believe in love. In love and everything that goes with it. And the religion is the one, the only one everywhere. It can be called by different names, but it is the same. I think.
You are a kind of hippie, aren't you?
I think I never was a kind of a person who belongs to some movement. I'm not with a movement. I'm just me. I'm not punk. I'm not a hippie. I'm not anything. I'm me. I really don't think anything of any movement or any organization or anything. I put my faith in people and human beings.
What is your favorite group?
The first thing that I've heard was the Beatles, and so they remain the best for me till this day.
Kremlin Avenue, the Melodia Boutique, is one of the biggest record stores in Moscow. The last few years, rock records have outsold all other types of music. An LP costs $3. For the group that recorded it, the profit varies between $1,400 and $1,600, regardless of how many records are sold. Royalties for lyrics and music are added every time the song is played. Socialist cash registers operate as well here as anywhere else. When the fees from public and private concerts are added in, show business does not treat its stars badly, even if it doesn't turn them into millionaires. Stas Namen, the leader and composer for a professional rock group that has already sold 20 million records, welcomed us with his wife, a well-known singer. They're superbly furnished and equipped. They even have a video recorder to watch foreign singers. Here in Moscow, everything was started by small, spontaneous groups during the period of the boom in rock music, with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. We were in high school. We played their music. It was very popular with the youth, but the older generations had trouble admitting that. Our fathers and mothers didn't understand it, and they didn't want to. They thought we should be studying, and they treated us like hooligans. Much later, they changed their minds. Their mentality changed.
В камеру, да? В камеру смотри. Я хочу вам показать интересные вещи. У нас была проблема большая.
We had a problem at the time. When we played that kind of music, it sparked a certain amount of criticism. We sang songs from the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. The problem was to sing them in Russian. The problem was to find out whether the Russian language could fit in with rock. Personally, I've always been convinced that any language can accommodate any music. Here is a traditional American English song. And now, a Russian one. It's the same thing. The intonations are very similar. Stas Namen assumes his official status as a rocker easily. His success has made others jealous, and his detractors never cease to remind everyone that he's the grandson of Mikoyan, the Armenian who was once the head of the Soviet state. Stas took advantage of his training as a filmmaker to direct the first Soviet video clip. The words are from Andrei Voznesensky, the great Russian poet, who also knows how to marry audacity and prudence. Soviet poets today like to dabble in rock. It's a way for them to talk to the youth who've created their own language and no longer listen to the outside world. The philosophy of the poet and the rocker cut through these pictures which send the past year to the junkyard. The Old New Year, the title of the song, expresses a little bit their hope that Soviet society does not reproduce itself eternally along the same identical lines.
Только в России празднуют эти 12 дней, как интервал в ненастьях через 12 лет. Вьюгою патриаршию позамело капот, в новом не потерявшееся старое настает, будто репатриация.
The song is already well known, but the clip hasn't yet been honored by being broadcast on Soviet television, which remains a refuge for conformity.
Может быть, если раньше был вопрос в этом смысле и представляли...
Before, rock was nothing more than music for distraction, a kind of music that was easy and light.
Бывает быть легкое и ни о чем. Кроме любви I love you, kiss me baby, bring me, well, I want to spend a night with you, and not more. Но мы в свою очередь тоже...
We've investigated the question very seriously. I don't know why, perhaps because I was trained in philology at the university. We are the first and only official group which fully uses themes touching on civic life. We sing the lyrics of professional poets for peace and for the nation. Ludmila Senchina, Stas Namen's wife, took us into the television studios. She was rehearsing her first rock song.
Через Люсю, правильно. Пушки работают через Люсю.
From here, the word rock might seem demeaning, but from there, for a well-known traditional singer, it's considered audacious to sing this kind of music in this kind of production.
Люся, с точки не уходи.
It's important to note that rock has barely come out of the underground and hasn't yet acquired recognition. In contrast to jazz, rock is not the music of intellectuals. It's music which goes out into the streets, and also a popular music that comes from the street. Young people sometimes travel several hundred miles to Moscow by train to exchange records, cassettes, badges, and posters, or just ideas. They get together at Pushkin Place or in cafes along Gorky Street.
Robin Tuesday. Сколько музыканты? Три musiciens.
These rockers, who met by accident, come from the city of Vladimir, 150 miles from Moscow. They came just to talk to someone else. The suburbs of Moscow, Kiev, Tallinn, Irkutsk, and Leningrad aren't any gayer than ours. It's there that the bitterest and hardest rock is found, and sometimes the most desperate. A rock music based on daily life, in which the absence of unemployment does not answer existential problems. KINO, which along with Aquarium is one of the most with-it groups in Leningrad, dominates most of the 170 other groups. Nevertheless, it has no serious chance of making a record that will enable it to reach a larger public. Responsible for heating a station during the day and a musician at night, Tsoi is passionate about his music. Despite his wife and 6-month-old baby, he plays whenever he can, sometimes at concerts, but more often just for friends. For this performance in an apartment, the drummer Africa, whose nickname says quite a lot, has verged on provocation intended to astonish the foreigners.
I can begin. Наша группа.
Our group, KINO, has existed since 1982. We play the music that's the most plugged in. There are a lot of good groups, but KINO devotes itself to the problems of fashion, to the problems of the new generation and teenagers.
Мы также все художники.
We're all painters, philosophers, and sociologists.
Очень интересуемся направлениями молодежной.
And we follow the evolution of fashion with a great deal of attention. We're all surgeons.
Делаем музыку, которая нам нравится, невзирая ни на что.
We make the kind of music that pleases us against everything. In this sanctuary, only the groups that have made some penitence and don't anger the apparatchiks of the Melodia studios too much are allowed in. The director is a good guy, but rock is his purgatory. How many record companies are in the Soviet Union?
Вы, наверное, знаете, что в Советском Союзе...
In the Soviet Union, there's only one record company, Melodia, and we produce about 200 million albums of all types. Do you think rock has a good future in the Soviet Union? There's no doubt about it. Rock is very popular here. We feel it with the number of records that are made and the crowds at the concerts. It's mostly young people who go. Do you like rock? I'm not young anymore. I prefer serious music, classical. Rock is for the young. Do you have children?
Нет.
No. Carnival, Alexander Barakin's group, rehearses its next concert in the club of the Army Tank Corps.
Money.
I do not really earn it. Somehow it happens that when I need it, I have it. I do not have tons of equipment that I'd like to have, but so what? I have my guitar. Sometimes that's enough for me. When I need more, I somehow get more for a while.
I mean, you have not a regular job?
Everybody here have a regular job, but it's not the main thing for me. I was always a musician. not even a musician. I'm doing what I'm doing, and what I'm doing officially it's not a big deal for me. It's just a place to earn as little money as possible, so that I will be free to pursue my other interests.
Is there many people here in Russia who succeed in making money with rock and roll?
Some of the official bands and some of the people who are playing in restaurants, but personally I don't envy them, because they are making money but they are not making music. I prefer to make music.
The Aquarium Group is not docile enough to record records at Melodia. They are happy to win prizes at all the festivals. For example, this one in Leningrad, where they've just received a special prize for their contribution to the development of rock music, which explains why their cassettes spread mysteriously like blinis. It's here in Leningrad where the first rock club in the Soviet Union was created. Socialist logic puts the right to authorize public performances and the choice of songs up to a vote by a Soviet made up of members of the Young Communists, representatives of the cultural services, the unions of the city of Leningrad, and the members of certain rock groups. Created in order to channel and control the fascination of young people for this kind of music, the rock club operates along the principles of democratic socialism. The first public concerts were marred by numerous incidents, fights, and interruptions. Certain lyrics were judged pornographic and too undignified to be presented in public. From Aquarium to Kino, passing by Alice, Televisor, Unusual Games, Pop Mechanica, and Jungle, rock music turned out to be less easy to control than had been foreseen. Gradually, the passion of the young music enthusiasts began to express itself in broad daylight.
А в принципе, к рок-клубовским группам, так сказать,
There are two approaches used by the groups in the rock club. Those who are really trying to make music, and those who do it because they have nothing else to do.
Существует от нечего делать. Вот. Ну, относительно рок-клуба это долгий разговор.
But there's so many things to say about it that they wouldn't fit in this film.
В личной беседе.
The group, Secret, is in the process of passing from amateur status to that of professional. The leader is a disc jockey on a Leningrad TV show devoted to the latest records and cassettes. We had the honor of being officially introduced to the only Leningrad group that no one's ever heard of. Why was the group Lyra chosen for us to meet out of the 150 professional and amateur rock groups, which are famous for making good music in Leningrad? I don't know why. Undoubtedly because we are a good group. I've been part of it for 20 years. We deserve this success. We are very popular. We have recorded a lot, many interesting pieces. Do you have to be in the Communist Party to be in a professional group here in the Soviet Union? No. And you aren't in the Communist Party? Me? I am a communist, but that doesn't mean anything. There are a lot of guys with us who are not in the party, and they play. Being in the party is not mandatory. Alexander Sitkovetsky and the group Autograph have just made their breakthrough with the professionals. They were the only Soviet group allowed to play at the World Concert for Ethiopia. Like many other groups, they were formed in 1980 during the most fantastic rock festival ever held in the Soviet Union, the one in Tbilisi, attended by 80,000 people.
I'm a freelance journalist, and I write about rock music, both Western rock music and Soviet rock music.
And you have been doing that job for a long time?
Well, I do it for quite a long time. That means that my first article was published in March of 1975, so it was 10 years ago.
What are the conditions required for a non-professional group to become a professional group?
Well, I think that there are two basic conditions. One is that a rock band must have some commercial potential. They must have this ability to sell out the sports palaces, the big concerts hall, and so on. This is essential for the state concert organizations. And the second condition is that their program, their repertoire also must satisfy this art Sovieter who listen to their music and they decide, is it okay for them or is it too subversive?
What is here, only professional groups or non-professional?
Well, here's mostly underground groups and some Western new wave and rock and roll music. I do not collect the tapes by professional bands. I'm simply not interested very much in them. So, okay. Well.
In this studio apartment, the best equipped in Moscow, a cassette album was produced, Banana Island, which has dominated the hit parade for months. It was nevertheless a parallel and private production. Andrei Chernevsky, a professional musician, is the pope of sound in Moscow. Other studios in Moscow and elsewhere reproduce cassettes of amateur or professionals who have little chance of being produced by Melodia. These cassettes are sold in parallel circuits, which renders the question of royalties for the artists highly hypothetical.
Я сам буду искать. Так, хорошо. Руки повыше, если можешь.
In just a few years, and despite attempts at repression by the authorities, rock has little by little set up its own channels, its own small world of specialized journalists, photographers, and groupies. One can even see the appearance of impresarios, who still don't dare admit who they are, and the usual crowd of pretty girls and parasites. A certain Russian-style show business, still a bit stiff, appears during the elegant private evenings of the with-it Soviets. The hit parades make their first appearances in the youth press and music reviews. Only the programs and concert calendars are missing. And here's the only Soviet star whose pictures are posted in the streets, Alla Pugachёva, the great and only red star who sings the blues as well as rock.
Ты найдешь себя, любимый мой, и мы еще споем.
What is it like being a star, especially in the Soviet Union?
То же самое, что и в вашей.
It's the same as it is with you.
Все то же самое, только денег меньше.
Only with less money.
Учитесь прочь мои печали и вдаль счастливую маня.
Fans camp day and night in front of her house on Gorky Street. Their hope? A single word, a record, an autograph, or a photo. During their vacation, some of them follow her from city to city. In winter, the undaunted don't hesitate at going out in 30 degrees below zero weather. Do you talk to your parents about this kind of music?
Cette musique-là?
Yes. My mother, for example, she likes Alla very much. She likes the groups, too. She listens with me.
Выше птиц, лететь хочу я, чтоб взглянуть с голубой высоты на страну мою большую, на леса, на луга, на цветы. Я так хочу.
Her concerts are always fully booked, but fans of all ages are deprived of vacant seats traditionally reserved for deserving workers who are brought to the shows without asking if that's what they really like. No question of avoiding a show offered by the party or the trades unions. And now the Harris group from Sweden. We're going to drink an elixir of youth together. In the duplex, which she occupies for a few days in a hotel Leningrad, Alla plays the star to perfection for the journalists of the regional television, which does not stop her from speaking with a frankness feared by her Soviet questioners. As soon as something unofficial happens, there are immediately foreign comrades who ask about unofficial rock groups and clubs. Why does that interest them? Because not everything is normalized yet. They are right to be interested in that, because if a larger public were made available to our groups, they would be less numerous and of a higher quality.
est-ce que c'est le devoir, le rôle d'Alla Pugachёva d'aider, de protéger?
Is it the role of Alla to aid and protect even the youth who want to make modern music, even those who want to make rock and roll?
Oui.
Yes, certainly.
Ну, конечно, я считаю себя обязанной.
I feel obligated.
Но вы просто зациклились на этом рок-н-ролле.
You are obsessed with rock.
Я чувствую себя просто обязанной помогать всем молодым и талантливым.
I feel personally obligated to help those young and talented people.
В области, в любом жанре поп-музыки.
In any domain, no matter what kind.
Другой, который чего-то добился.
If it's not me or someone else in an important position who helps, who will?
Если не я или кто-то там из тех популярных, то кто-то. Я не знаю.
Do you want to become a professional official?
Ну, это вопрос скорее к Сергею.
Фирма «Мелодия», она...
Хотел бы ты быть официальным, так сказать? Профессиональным. Ну,
дело в том, что музыка, которую исполняет поп-механика, которую исполняю я, это...
The music our group, Pop Mechanica, makes doesn't really suit Melodia.
Немного не для очень широкого потребления.
It's not intended for a very large public.
Которые слушают именно такую музыку. А если фирма
It's our friends who listen.
поп-механика, я могу себе представить, что...
If Melodia were to make a record of it, one could easily imagine people not understanding and being horrified.
Это для них будет не музыка, а вообще с чем-то совершенно неприемлемым.
But I think the times will change, and Melodia will finish by recording us, and millions and billions of people around the world will appreciate our music.
Миллионы, миллиарды будут
придуманы новые цифры для измерения всех пластинок.
Pop Mechanica is the band which gathers the leaders of the best groups in Leningrad.
Ну, знаете, что вышла серия пластинок, точнее 5 пластинок с записью музыки. Ты уже говорил. Ну, отлично.
Я думаю, что надо еще сказать.
It's important to say that a year ago, I was invited to the Festival of Jazz at Le Mans in France.
La Mans, около Парижа. Во всех программках было отпечатано, что приедет поп-механик.
The program was already printed with my name, Sергei Kурёхin.
К сожалению, госконцерт послал вместо нас в другую.
But unfortunately, the authorities in charge decided to send someone else in my place.
Не очень хорошие отзывы, мягко говоря.
He wasn't very successful.
И Пигонская, и все ждали поп-механику. Я думаю, что мы все-таки сможем выступить во Франции, как то и планировалось год назад.
Да, мы выступим, наверное.
How do you organize your concerts? Why is there no publicity?
Все узнают, поскольку все знают друг друга.
Everything is by word of mouth.
Все знают все обо всех.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows everything about everyone. It's a very open country. It's an open city. A people who are very open. Word of mouth allows them to find themselves, but also to avoid curiosity of one of the world's most efficient police forces.
Breakdance in Red Square.
Пишется все.
Очень хорошо.
Вот эти чемоданчики начинают.
Юрик?
Нет.
А Юрик не видел?
Юрика не видел.
Зачем мы, куда мой сосед? Не может он, хочет уйти, но не может уйти. Он не знает пути, и вот все которые... В кабине нет шофера, но троллейбус идет, и мотор заржавел, но мы едем вперед, мы сидим, не дыша. Смотрим туда, где на долю секунды показалась звезда. Мы молчим, но мы знаем, нам в этом помог троллейбус, который идет на восток. Троллейбус, который идет на восток. Троллейбус, который...
It's we do not exist outside of socialism. We are the integral part of it. I mean, we are Russian, and I personally love to live here in Russia, in socialistic Russia. I mean, that's the only place for me.
Why do the authorities of this country don't make a big part for you? Because you could help socialism. Wow.
Yes, I think I'm doing it, actually. But the trouble is that there exists some kind of gap between the authorities, who are usually more than 40 years old, and they are accustomed to quite different art. And they probably think of art usually as just a form of entertainment. And they are not accustomed to what people are doing now, what we are doing, for example. And so it takes time, it just takes time for them to grow accustomed to it, I hope. So. Some more questions?
Certainly there are many other questions, but to learn something of the Soviet Union tomorrow, it would be more informative to translate the thousands of rock songs and their words with double meanings, which disturb the apparent silences of Soviet society, rather than stretching an ear desperately towards the walls of the Kremlin, where rock is still, at least for the moment, an affair of state.
Мы стояли слишком гордо, мы платим втройне за тех, кто шел с нами, за тех, кто нас ждал, за тех, кто никогда не простит нам